Hello, folks, and welcome to Totally Tank, the tankiest podcast in Tankville. I'm Rob. This is John.
Hey, I'm John.
He's changing the batteries because we just realised our remote control has died right this second. It was working 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Obviously, that was too much. And so we're just going to... but today, we're talking about which tank, John?
Challenger 3.
The best the British can offer. I just want to give a shout-out to those folks on the line. We've got Ashley Beavis, Ragao, Philippine Dreams, and Captivate Them, whose call of tank was a lovely thing to come into.
Okay, anyway, as I've said, I'm John. You're watching 100% warts and all human content. This is episode 83, recording and streaming live on 13 June 2026. And we're doing the best the British can do, focusing on the brand new Challenger 3, along with some updates on Ajax and Boxer, because they're all meant to operate in the British...
together.
Anyway, they're combat teams.
Brigade combat teams.
Yes. Now, you can get our Totally Tank merchandise, T-shirts, hats, mugs, miniskirts, etc. from redbubble.com. Just make sure to look for Totally Tanked. And also, if you like the show, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave relevant reviews, and drop comments. So just drop anything down there and help us out. It's been a while since we had any of you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and we could do with the algorithmic bump. So off you go. Come on. And one last piece of housekeeping before we get into the tank. We got knocked off Spotify for a few weeks due to a cock-up by our podcast host. So if you haven't heard the T70 episode, please do give it a listen, as it deserves a bigger audience than it's had. And, you know, in fact, let's use this moment to remember that as the open internet is increasingly being destroyed by speculative finance, signing up to our mailing list on totallytank.net is the very best way to stay in touch with the show. We can get vaporized at any moment, but anything we rebuild is probably going to be based off the mailing list.
Yep.
And
RSS feeds.
If you don't want to hear about obscure Soviet light tanks, what are you even doing on this show? So give the T70 a listen if you haven't. Now, a few weeks before every episode, we post a silhouette of a tank to social media and the website and ask folks to guess what the next episode is going to be. And this one gave people a lot of trouble, partly because the Challenger 3 angle we used was bang on, and you couldn't make out the silhouette for it much. But for funsies, I also posted to the History Tubers Discord, and no less an eminence than Laserpig had this to guess. I see the funny sight from a Leclerc, but it's on the wrong side and the turret is the wrong shape. And he was kind enough to agree to me mentioning it here. Or Leclerc, I'm sure Laserpig would have pronounced it correctly. Anyway, which is to say that it's not an obvious one to guess, and I actually think it's a bit of catnip to the British establishment. Just before Rob gets counting the rivets, I want to say, if you're looking at pictures of this beast, and we've got a bunch on totallytank.net, take a look at the sad little oil canvas tool bag strapped onto the front, which is to middle-aged British blokes, like those at the MOD making purchasing decisions, the sort of catnip that little pink satin bows are to a certain type of woman. I used to have something very similar, that's the tool bag, on the handlebars of my very hipster bicycle, and I never actually put tools in it. And then it got stolen one day. And the black rubber fenders also look suspiciously like marketing trim to me too. Having said that, I know we've got some listeners who've worked on this vehicle, and I just want to say, don't take any of what we have to say too personally, guys. I'm sure you've done a great job with what you were given. Rob, what do you got to tell us?
All right. Name, Challenger 3. I know it seems simple just to keep on naming it Challenger, but I kind of feel it's just the marketing people leaning into the kudos of the Challenger 1 riding those coattails, so they'll keep getting the funding. Then we get into the stats. It's a main battle tank. Surprise. Designed and built by Rheinmetall BAE Systems Land, or RBSL. And who thought it was acceptable to have an initialism inside an initialism?
I mean, recursive initialisms have been a thing in the open source software community for a while.
P.S. I had to look up what the difference between an acronym and an initialism was, because I'd never actually heard of an initialism before.
And can you tell us what the difference is, Rob?
Well, an acronym, the word, you can say it as one word. So NASA is an acronym because you say it NASA, you say it as NASA, whereas initialism is BAE because you spell the letters out.
Oh, so instead of BAE, which would be cooler, or RBSL, which you can't pronounce. And they do like to call themselves RBSL, and they really like to downplay the fact that they've been bought out by the Germans.
All right. Number built. They've got 8 prototypes so far, with 148 planned, which would be 2 tank battalions plus a training unit.
We're gonna talk about this more, but for an orphan fleet, 148 is pathetic. Like, it's one thing to have a fleet of,
400.
Well, it's one thing to have a fleet of, say, 75 Abrams, like a lot of countries have, because it's interoperable with everything else.
Or, or 54 Leopard 2s.
Yeah, but if you've got a problem, you can call up someone who's a bigger operator and get their ideas. But when you've got the only one in existence, it's very hard.
Which is why Challenger 2 with 400 of those, it was all right. It was the low end of.
It was the low end. It was right on the low end, and this is pathetically low. And also, it's not a new build. It's an upgraded. Well, the turret's new, but it's an upgraded hull.
Beautiful, beautiful tank.
The newest Challenger 2 was completed in, I think, 2002. And if I went to a car yard and the salesman said, "Oh yeah, this one's reconditioned from something that was originally built in 2002," I wouldn't buy that car.
But these are tanks.
Oh, so I mean, there's been multiple revolutions in material sciences, and this old thing that we've done up is good enough. For the cost, I think
that's
it's
why
ludicrous.
we have Farnham armour now, not Dorchester, not Chobham. Farnham.
I know it's got reconditioned armour, but they could have put new armour in a Leopard 2 hull. They could have put new armour in a new hull. They didn't have to. They tried to keep the cost down, which is why they've gone with a very old hull that they're trying to keep going. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now you've had your say. All right, mass, 66 tons, plus everything that's going to get on top of that. So
that does not include the active protection system.
or the extra armour packages.
Yeah.
So it's going to be well over 80 tons with it's all geared up. All right, crew of 4, commander, gunner, loader and driver.
I've just noticed I've got a typo in the poll, so I apologise to everyone who's on the live stream for that. I've been naughty.
I should have bought bow.
Yeah, should have bow Leopard 2s.
Yeah, and if you want, feel free to jump in the poll. We've got is the Challenge 3 is the best tank in the world, or they should have bought Leopard 2s. Well, we'll see how we end up at the end. I'm sure I can convince people it's the best tank in the world.
It's currently got 6 votes, and it's running at 83% to 17%. So I think one person said the best tank in the world. Tasman hasn't even joined us yet, so hopefully I know he's a big fan.
And look, if we're having any technical issues on the live stream, please let us know, because
everything's going wrong today. Yeah,
batteries was not the only thing going wrong today. Alrighty, where was the armor on it? It's called New Modular Armor. So again, this is the best name they could come up with for it, which consists of an external Epsom armor. So that's what you bolt on the outside, and the internal, the actual. What's on the hull is the Farnham armour, which is the new version of the Dorchester armour, which is the new version of the Chobham armour. And Farnham is all very hush-hush for the moment. And then they've also got the Trophy APS system, active protective system.
Now, just quickly on the comments, Alan has noted that it's crap, the fuel system's leaking all over the place. I'll take that as a comment. Ned K says the turret looks cool, but the hull looks like it skips leg day. The turret is very chunky, and I feel like the turret is, again, the marketing, it's trying to look a lot like a Centurion from the front.
Right.
This is a nostalgia vehicle, in my view.
All right, there you go. The main armament now has a 120mm Rheinmetall L55A1 smoothbore gun, only carrying 31 rounds compared to 49 in the Challenger 2. Now,
someone's been into your script, Rob, and they've been leaving notes.
I know.
I noted that the Leopard 2 carries 42. So that's 10, 11 more than this number. I have seen a number that the Challenger can carry a lot more than that, but this is the number Rob got, so we're going with that for now.
I can't even remember where
Leave a comment and tell us that we're wrong about that.
It wouldn't surprise me if I'm wrong. If what I found was wrong, or the person telling me it was wrong, whatever.
Now, I do want to remember, though,
so it's a smoothbore.
It's a smoothbore, great. And all the British Promo and Maximus reading out the media releases will be like, yeah, isn't this great? We're getting the same gun that everyone else has been using since the 1970s. Well, admittedly, it ended service in 1978, so late 70s. And the A1 is a new upgraded version. But
what's on the Leopard 2A, latest Leopard?
Yeah, no, I get that. And that's good that they've gone for that commonality. But if they're saying, isn't this great? We got the commonality. It's like you could have just used the same tank and had even more commonality. And that might have been a really good idea. And you just think if you took your Leopard 2 and you put your fancy British composite armours in there, now wouldn't that have been a super tank? Wouldn't that have been great?
maybe. Anyway, it's the engine is the Perkins V12 diesel engine, 1,200 horsepower.
Yes, and that's 1,500 in the Leopard 2, so 300 horsepower less than a Leopard 2. I just want to quickly note, though, Raghaus said, any truth to the rumour this is the only tank getting the Farnham armour as its last tour? Haven't heard about that one. Brandon is saying the last few days have been a cluster. Yes, they have. Captivate Them is noting that the smoothest of bores to fire unrifled pints at adversary and can blast them up to 5 kilometres. Yeah, that's good. I did, again, the copium of the British press, the Telegraph and the Sun doing their YouTube videos is saying, oh, it's much longer range than the previous gun. So I thought you told us that rifled gun was the longest range gun going.
No, from what
A smoothbore shouldn't be better than a rifle gun for range.
Yeah,
but,
that was a John Farnham joke.
Thanks for our John Farnham jokes. Right.
Yes, all right. For those international listeners, John Farnham is an Australian singer, big in the 80s, I guess, and 90s, but he's
He had a
continued
song
on.
that mentioned words that are now illegal in Queensland.
Yeah, from the river to the sea.
Rob, we're going to Queensland later this year.
You and me. Like the river and the sea. All right, that's the song. I'm just doing my impression of John Farnham, which is really bad because I'm really bad at singing. All right, transmission. David Brown's Santa Salo transmission, 6 forward, 2 reverse gears.
No one actually knows if this is good or bad. I mean, people working on it know, but out in the public, we don't know. Probably good, though. Yeah.
With new component improvements.
Yes.
Horseman 3rd generation hydrogas suspension. With a speed of 60 k's on road.
Now, we've got no reason to think that Horsemen haven't built a good suspension system. They're a company that has been in business since World War II, and they seem to know what they're doing with tank suspension. 60 kilometres per hour, though. Leopard 2 will do 70. So, yes.
All right, design and development. All right. So we start with the Challenger 1 in 1983 as a big improvement over the Chieftain, with a decent 1,200 horsepower engine, a long-range, accurate 120mm rifled gun, and advanced chopper armour to make it probably the best protected tank in the world at the time. It does excellent service in Gulf War 1, but was found to be chonky. Then in 1998, we get the Challenger 2 with electronic rather than mechanical gubbins inside of it, a similar 1,200 horsepower engine, an upgraded 120mm rifled gun, and armour upgraded from Chobham to Dorchester, plus add-ons, making it the best protected tank in the world at the time. It does excellent service in Gulf War 2, where it was found to be even more chonky. Now, they were expecting to get the Challenger 3 this year or next, if they're lucky, with all new electronic gubbins inside of it, the same 1,200 horsepower engine, a 120mm smoothbore NATO gun, which is not as accurate out to long range, longer than 3 kilometres, which is what I'm talking about, where the rifle gun is actually more accurate out past 3 kilometres, with new and improved new modular armour with Farnham on the inside and Epsom on the outside, and a few tanks fitted with trophy active protective system.
Now, in one of the RBSL media release sheets, fact sheets, it described the active protection system as optionally fitted.
Yeah, we'll get down to that.
Which sounds...
You're buying 60.
Yeah, which doesn't sound great.
Fitted for but not with is the term the Navy uses.
Yeah, and it's not great in the Navy, and it's even less great in tanks. Your chances of having it when you need it start becoming very low.
Well, it depends what sort of conflict you're going into. If you're going to a small-scale conflict whereby you're sending 12 Challenger 3s to Bosnia to provide peacekeeping services, fine. If it's
really, because I think you're going to be fighting drones these days.
But
if you send them back in time to the 1990s, then that'd be great.
My point being is that if you're sending a limited deployment somewhere, rather than having to deploy a whole 110 active tanks into a conflict, then 60 is fine. But if you actually have to do something with them, then, with all of them, then you're a little bit troubled. But anyway, they wouldn't be deploying 2 battalions worth of 2 regiments of regiments or whatever of tanks. It's only 1 tank regiment and it's 2 battalions. There you go. Maybe.
My point is just there is no situation in which you need to send the tanks that they don't need to have the active protection system in 2026.
No, correct.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if they're only deploying a battalion at a time, then 60 is all you need. All right. So it's also fitted with the active protective system. This is the Challenger 3, making it more protected than most tanks. But if it goes into actual combat, it will probably end up with a cope cage on it pretty quick, and after the first drone tracks it and then drops a grenade in the hatch, is going to be extremely. You basically not sure how protected it's going to be. It's also going to be extremely chonky. But mostly I'm hoping it doesn't see service in Gulf War 3, as I don't want there to be a Gulf War 3, please.
Well, it's great that these Gulf conflicts are destroying the petroleum industry. As an environmentalist, this is fantastic. But just want to note...
it's the fertilizers that's really going to hurt us.
Yeah. Alexander's noting that the chaff dispensers are called Gary Glitters, but apparently he got it from a podcast called The Tank Nonce. I'm not sure if that's real or not. And I'm hurt that you're listening to any other tank podcast. Hurt, I tell you.
We should be all you need. All right, so plans to upgrade the Challenger 2 started back in 2005, but lack of money meant they didn't actually start the life extension program until 2014, with the Challenger 2 expected to be in service until 2030. BAE and Rheinmetall were as separate entities, were contracted to provide a prototype of an upgraded tank in 2018. But when they formed RBSL in 2019, the Ministry of Defence said, that's fine. You're now one company, but we still want 2 prototypes. And it has to be a British tank. None of that foreign muck, thank you very much. I might have been paraphrasing there. In late 2022, the final design of what will be the Challenger 3 was signed off on, by which time they'd had plenty of time to observe the effect of ATGMs and artillery on tanks in Ukraine, but had not had as much time to witness the expansion into mass first-person drone strikes, as they took a little longer to make an impact on the battlefield. Usually around September is when September 2022 is when the FPS drones really started to affecting things rather than ATGMs.
I am 100% sure, I would happily bet this house on it, that by the time this tank is in mainstream service, they won't be FPS drones, they will be fully autonomous, and they will all be aiming for the engine deck. So if you haven't got that engine deck extremely well armoured, it doesn't matter what anything else is. And Leopard 2's got the same problem with that, in that it's got a grill over fans, and that's FPS is going to go straight through those. Not FPSs, attack drones are going to go straight through those.
All right. Yeah. But what does Challenger 3 actually get that makes it new and improved? Well, the marketing says the Challenger 3 will be a 24-hour all-weather tank.
I think they said that about every other British tank in history, but continue.
Networks-enabled digital main battle tank with state-of-the-art lethality.
Ooh, state-of-the-art lethality, you say, Rob. Why didn't anyone think of that?
Upgraded survivability, plus world-class surveillance and target acquisition capabilities, firing the latest kinetic energy anti-tank rounds and programmable multi-purpose ammunition, with increased first-hit capability and the latest fire support technology. The new turret and improved survivability systems provide the highest standard of protection for the crew. The long-range commander and gunner primary sights will also be improved with automatic target detection and acquisition.
So this isn't the hunter-killer system that Leopard's had for the last 20 years, and similarly Abrams.
And Challenger 2.
Kind of, sort of.
It does. This solution also provides significant growth potential in all main battle tank key capability areas with the new physical, electronic, and electrical architecture. And so what does that all mean? The first thing is that it has a new gun. Well done. New
it's not a new gun.
Well, new for the Brits.
New for the Brits. And again, I love the copium in all these videos the English media's put out about this, being like, it's a new gun that brings us up to the capabilities of 1978.
The 120mm high-pressure L55A1 smoothbore gun is already in use on the later Leopard 2 tanks. The high-velocity ammunition can travel at faster speeds with increased range and can be digitally programmed, allowing the gunner to set the type or time of detonation of the round. So it can be airburst, delayed detonation, so that it can penetrate a bunker, target tracking, so it can change direction in flight. It also gets a new suite of Thales Orion sights, including thermal long-range cameras.
Just for people who are only part-time players in this space, Thales is written Thales, but it's pronounced Talos. Yeah.
It
confuses a lot of people.
Right.
And I just thought
long-range cameras providing tank commanders with enhanced day and night targeting capabilities, along with the gunner, and new automatic target detection and tracking systems used to identify threats in its open architecture concept, so that hardware and software upgrades will be easier to install than in the past.
I mean, good. I get very nervous with this talk of networked battlefields, because networked battlefield means you are prone to being jammed and you are constantly emitting traceable signatures. But yeah,
I've got a great one later on.
All right,
you might even say it's a joke, John.
Oh.
And you know, Rob's jokes aren't to be missed.
I don't know what's happening with this falsetto laugh from me today, but this tank just brings it out. Probably because I'm trying to channel a British schoolboy. No, let's rephrase that. No, anyway, I'm not channeling British schoolboys.
You've never been a British schoolboy.
No, almost, but not quite.
All right.
I just want to note, before the flag shaggers come on here with the hate about Australians hating on their tank, I am still a British citizen. So I'm a United Kingdom citizen. So don't come out with it. This is one of mine.
I made sure I never got that thing. I could have.
Well, I now wish I hadn't, but anyway, go on.
Would have been eligible, but right. The new NATO ammo is single piece rather than the 3-piece ammo that the Brits used.
We had this fight over when we did the Challenger episodes, and it's like 2 big pieces and then a little blasting cap. That was the third piece.
But all the military says it's so. Most articles I read said the rifled ammo was 2-piece, and I had to go, actually, it's 3-piece, just to be that guy. So, which means the Brits can now use the NATO arsenal for ammo rather than hoping the Dutch company that makes their rifled ammo does not shut up.
Belgian, but anyway, one of those low
does
countries.
not shut up shop, and which may not happen for a while now that the Challenger 2 is in Ukraine. So basically, that company might still be cranking out rounds because the Ukrainians actually need a supply chain of rounds. So does Arjun, I guess, as well. So I wonder if the Indians are actually making their own for that. But anyway, that's something we should look into. So logistics and ongoing supply is sorted for the new gun, and the rounds should be cheaper. They can even fire the US depleted uranium rounds for some extra wallop. The mobility is improved via the Heavy Armour Automotive Improvement Project.
Hype,
which includes retrofitting an improved engine without an increase in power, but with new suspension, hydraulic track tensioner, an electronic cold start system, and an improved cooling system.
Now, I understand that the British, now that they've got a new tank, they're willing to talk about the problems they had with the Challenger 2 that they never mentioned before. There were a lot of maintenance issues with the Challenger 2 engine, and while the new engine doesn't give a horsepower increase, apparently it is a lot more reliable. So, yeah.
And as mentioned, it's got all the new electronic gubbins inside of it, including integrated tactical comms, letting the commander code and electronically work with other units, infantry, armour, artillery, air and drones. New fire control systems also introduce the capability to automatically search for hostile targets, classify them by type, and track them with the gun. Plus front and rear cameras for the driver, so the commander doesn't have to just stick their head out to drive backwards. And don't forget the boiling vessel.
Yes, we had this question. Yes, you can make tea. It does have a boiling vessel. I believe all British armoured vehicles these days have a boiling vessel. I mean, it's the simplest thing in the world. It's just basically an electric kettle built into it, but yeah.
But when you've got a limited electrical system within your vehicle and you've got a choice of, okay, can I...
Do I turn off the APS to run the kettle?
Do I turn off the trophy to run the kettle, or do I keep the kettle? Right. Anyway.
Look, I have lived in houses in this town, and those houses still exist, where conversations had to be had amongst the housemates as to turning off the heating to run the kettle. So, it's these power systems, they're no joke. And when you're relying on the APS to keep you alive.
Between your toaster, your kettle and your microwave, you can easily blow away a fuse on
you can.
the house.
And let's remember the British lost a frigate in the Falklands War because they'd turned off the one of the radar systems because it was interfering with their satellite communications. So you sometimes you have to make trade-offs, and a lot of people can die on the basis of them.
All right. The new engine is also able to handle the extra electrical load of all the added bits of kit, including the trophy APS. So there you go. So it is an improved engine, even if it doesn't provide more go juice. And where is it now? The answer is it's still in testing. RBSL have carried out crude live fire trials, i.e.
they're so excited about that. They've managed to fit 4 crew in it and fire the gun.
There were crew inside the turret when the main gun was fired. They were all wearing gas masks, just in case the gases released into the turret killed them, but it was a successfully crewed firing of the main gun, and they didn't detect any gases that would kill their own crew.
Now, for folks who watch Maximus, and he does know a bit about tanks, even if he tends to read too much off media releases, he actually thought that the footage of the bore evacuator, something was going badly wrong with it. But anyway... he did note that he
knows a lot more about tanks than we do.
He did note that he could be wrong about that as well, but yeah.
He knows a lot more about tanks than we do. We're just two idiots on the internet
drinking
beer.
Yeah, I know how to read.
I'd love to have a beer with him.
Though. Oh yeah. I certainly don't want to get in a fight with him. He looks like he'd kick my ass. But
we're just talking about fighting. We're talking about getting a beer with him.
Because we make fun of him reading media releases.
I'm sure he makes fun of us as well, saying those two drunken idiots.
I know how to critically read a media release, and he doesn't. But anyway,
and that's a choice.
Continue, Rob.
All right. So that's all good stuff. But there are a few notes on what could be improved. And look, this is where we might get a little bit mean to the old Challenger 3 here. All right, so an upgrade of 148 Challenger 2s to Challenger 3. Wow, be still my fainting heart. Even Australia has 75 Abrams. They even built 200 of the original cruiser Mark 8 Challengers.
That's the British built those. Yes.
Yep. in 1944, the Cromwell with a 17-pounder and in a modified turret, which, fun note, had 2 loaders in the turret along with the commander and the gunner. So 4 people in the turret. Fun. Currently,
it's funny how when you have to fight a real war, loader fatigue becomes a lot more important, and you start making room for extra guys, because a 17-pounder is a much smaller round than what's going in these.
But they're lighter now because the materials are much lighter. Basically, they were as heavy type thing. Yeah. So even though the rounds have gotten bigger, they haven't gotten. They're not as heavy.
Just want to quickly address some comments. Alan asked, there's only 14 tanks in Ukraine, or do you know something? No, we're just saying that they're firing a lot, so they're burning through some ammo. That's all we're saying there. Raghaus said that the photo of the Ajax, which is for folks on the video feed, has got a rainbow in the background, so it looks optimistic, which it needs to be. Alan said the few times he worked with the British, nothing ever worked. Everything was broken all the time. Alex has noted that the Moskva was sunk because they diverted surface power search radar to the counter-strike skin generator. Thank you. Okay. All right. Funny comment there. All right. Let's continue.
All right. The Brits currently have plans to convert just 148 of its older Challenger 2s into the new version, including the 8 prototypes that have been put together so far. RBSL has said that it's technically possible to build new Challenger 3s if required, but importantly, the turret can be fitted to the tanks of allies and global partners. So that's a separate line of sales for the UK.
Is it for the UK? Because is RBSL really a UK company?
Well, anyway, yeah, especially when Oman wants to upgrade its 38 Challenger 2s by spending some of its Straits of Hormuz safe navigation and environmental protection donation money. So I'm sure they'll be getting their cut from
if that's assuming the Mango Mussolini doesn't bomb Oman, as he was threatening to do a couple of weeks ago. But
it's for the environment. They're looking after the environment. It's critically endangered place of the Straits of Hormuz.
It's an environmental feat. Yeah. To be fair, when you've got that many oil tankers moving through your narrow strait, you probably do need an environmental levy, because getting money out of Exxon after they've crashed the tanker is quite challenging. Anyway, let's move on about tanks.
Yeah, we'll get back to the tankers later on. Challenger 3 will be fitted with a digitised backbone connecting it to other combat vehicles on the battlefield. This enables data sharing across domains and information sharing, providing an information advantage, delivering an edge over adversaries. I just got to say, have these people not watched Battlestar Galactica? Having everything connected together is how the Cylons cripple you, and it's only the older mechanical equipment which survives. And I'm looking at you, T-55.
The T-55 will be immortal, yeah. It's the Queen Elizabeth class battleship of the tank world.
And there's lots of marketing about the number of jobs to be made in places that are not near London. And I'm sure that will make all the Brexiteers want to vote for the government.
Telford is doing really well. I do love how that facility in Telford, it's been owned by 5 different companies in the last 60 odd years. And the drain pipe on the side of the warehouse is, you see every demonstrator tank rumbling past, and it's lovely.
The Brexiteers will vote for whichever government, whichever useless, corrupt idiots it is that week. And pity that they have to rely on the Germans to do all the difficult bits.
Did they want to rely on the Germans, or did the Germans just buy their company and they didn't bring in any sort of sovereign protection of the British manufacturing?
Who knows?
Yeah.
The space requirements of the single-piece ammunition means that the total number of rounds carried is 31 compared to 49 in the Challenger 2, and the ammunition is stored in isolated bustle compartments.
So that's good. That's good. And I would say that taking a reduction in ammunition to have a fully isolated ammunition storage is actually a good trade-off.
31's pretty low, though.
31's pretty low, but if your tank's fired 31 rounds, it probably needs to move and have a think about resupply anyway. That's a big day at the office.
I know, but all right. Anyway, I was going to say that at the rear of the turret is where the bustle is to improve the survivability if the tank takes a hit. But I've got to say, the limited number of rounds increases the logistical footprint and can limit its operational flexibility.
I just want to comment. Sorry, refer to a comment we've got on the feed here. Alexander saying, join an elite armoured unit only to be data linked to every doofus in the military like a group chat that is illegal to leave.
I like that.
And Brandon has noted that Trump held off on the strikes so that SpaceX IPO could go well, and I'm sure they're launching F-18s as we speak. Hard to say.
Look,
at this point, Trump's just playing the market. He's just making money off the oil futures.
Like the fact that SpaceX has said have been allowed to say, okay, usually once you go to IPO, you're not allowed to sell the shares for 12 months. They've got 2 weeks or something like 30 days, or something stupid like that. Basically, Elon can say, cash out in 2 to 4 weeks, and that is just insane.
The other thing is it's been accepted into the index in such a way that every pension fund in the world is going to have to buy the bloody shares, and we don't want anyway.
No.
Angry. Let's move on past that. Let's keep going. Tanks.
So many things wrong in the world, and that's just another one.
Safe place. Tanks.
Tanks and beer. Tanks and beer. That's what we're all about here. Tanks and beer. All right. Challenger 3 is equipped with a new modular armor, NMA, small n, capital MA, using a modular system that means that specific...
It looks like a British music magazine, doesn't it?
It does.
NMA.
Using a modular system that means that specific parts of the armour can be quickly removed and replaced. It also means the United Kingdom doesn't need to buy full sets of armour for all its Challenger 3s, equipping individual tanks with NMA when they need to deploy. The NMA package includes applique armour for the sides and the hull and the belly, so they can buy 12 sets of NMA and not worry about the other 136.
Yeah.
As I said, they'll probably get 60. Which is where we get to design to fit the trophy APS. But again, it's modular, so not all tanks will get it and be fitted for, but not with. Now, the Challenger 2 weighs 82 tonnes with add-on armour modules, more than the 73 tonnes of the latest Abrams.
What bridge is that going over?
Challenger 3 will be heavier still with the same engine plus most motorway bridges in the UK are only rated to 70 tonnes. So you're not doing... You don't do a lot of defence of Britain by driving around on these things unless you're going cross-country.
Well, there's this idea that's sort of hand-waving that, the Engineers Corps will bring up tactical bridging, but once you're in this 80-ton class, tactical bridging is rare, few and far between that can handle this. Especially as their tactical bridging is based on the Challenger 2, again, and not the Challenger 3. But also, tactical bridging is something that the enemy can be tracking its movements. Once you brought your tactical bridging up to a certain jumping off point, it's like, well, that's where the attack's going to be. Losing the ability to act organically is horrendous. Anyway, let's go on.
All right, the Ministry of Defence has not set a specific timeline for the Challenger 3 to go into production, so testing continues. All 148 are supposed to be available at the end of 2030. The price tag has risen from the original £800 million to £1.3 billion and to now £1.9 billion. So each upgrade is £12 million per tank, which is cheaper than buying the Leopard 2A8, but it's a developmental dead end with no plans for what comes next after the planned end date of 2040 for the Challenger 3.
Just a couple more comments. Ashley's joined us saying the tank dock was for defensive, not offensive. Yeah, fair enough, but still has to move places. And Alex has said, build a turret so heavy it's impossible to toss, which I like. Also, Paul's joined us saying, if I had to be in a tank on modern battlefields, the only choice is made in Britain. Well, yeah, because you can't go anywhere you can get shot at, and you'll survive. But Tasman's joined us, which is also great news. Okay.
All right. Well, I've got to say with Paul, I agree that it is going to be a very well-protected tank, as long as it can take care of drones.
Which we're not sure about at all.
Yeah. All right. Before the Ukraine war, there was speculation that the British Army might just get rid of all those tanks altogether. So having even 148 Challenger 3s means the POMs remain in the tank game, so at least out to 2040.
Well, except they haven't built a chassis since 2002, and even with this, they haven't built a chassis since 2002.
So the Challenger...
they can build a turret, so can Cockerell in Belgium, but,
and they're mounting their Cockerell 120s on all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Even Leopard 1s, I think. So the Challenger 3 will only be in service for, say, 10 years, when most tanks seem to go for 60 years nowadays. And what do they think is going to happen between now and then? Tanks will become obsolete to drones, or that new technology will make flying hover tanks the norm. What's going to happen in 2040? I don't know. Is the Ministry of Defence gun shy after Ajax in wanting to make sure they have a workable solution before pulling the trigger on the new design? I mean, what's the rush? It's not like there's a land war in Europe or anything going on.
It's not like the world's getting a lot meaner. Yeah.
And question, should they have built new hulls? Why not? I'm sure they've still got all the tools, machines and trained staff around who built the Challenger 2 hulls.
I would argue it's not. It's just that, like I said, material science has advanced enormously in the last 20 years. A country like Japan or South Korea that is building, and let's be fair,
they have heavy industry.
They have heavy industry. The UK does still have heavy industry though. They're still building tractors and cranes and all sorts of heavy stuff. But I do not believe that the Challenger 2 is as good as a tank hull built in 2026 can be. And in that case, why not be building something from scratch to be better and incorporate all that massive improvement? A car from 2002 is massively worse than a car on the market today.
I mean, just having the little thing to tell you if you're trying to change lanes and says, no, there's a car in your blind spot.
Yeah.
Don't change into that lane.
Yeah.
And it goes beep at you. You go, great idea.
I mean, that's more in the system side, which this tank is addressing. But the chassis cannot be as good as a new design would have been. I do not believe that. Okay.
Right. So let's go back to the companies that are building the Challenger 2 hulls. All right, and all those companies that provided the parts are still in business, keeping all 300 Challenger 2s going, and the Army is not just cannibalising 100 tanks to keep 200 going. No, they're all too busy working on Ajax, that's okay.
Which also doesn't work, and they build the hulls in Spain, and they're often a metre out of spec. A metre out of spec.
The Challenger can wait, because they definitely want those folks working on a new Challenger hull. In all seriousness, they probably do, as they should have learned exactly how not to do tank building.
Well, yeah, Ajax being the things to avoid. Yeah.
Saying you've learned how not to do it. All right. All the marketing hype makes sure to point out that the UK invented the tank and were the first to deploy it. So that's part of, I think they're trying to lean into that quite a lot. All right. Question for you, John. Would you rather have a cope cage or trophy APS? Against drones, I think maybe you'd want the cope cage. Against tanks, you probably want the trophy. Against infantry in the open or close terrain, maybe trophy? What do you think?
I don't think trophy is actually, and at the moment, an ideal counter-drone situation. I know
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Trophy can engage drones. I think what you need is a 360-degree sensor array, which trophy does kind of sort of provide. But for the drone engagement, you might well be better off with where the Americans appear to be going with the M1E3, which is having a Crows system firing a 30mm, so it's a remote operated weapon station firing a 30mm airburst round, rather than trophy relying on its hard kill that's designed to engage anti-tank missiles.
And you definitely want these things deployed on each individual vehicle, not just say, oh, we've got an anti-aircraft or anti-drone vehicle in this troop, because you're going to end up in a situation where a troop of tanks gets split up for whatever reason, and a tank's going off by itself and doesn't have that protection.
Or even just a slight deviation in the terrain means that the air defence vehicle is unable to provide cover to the vehicles, and the drones will swarm in through whatever gaps in that coverage they can see. So I keep hearing people saying, "Oh, well, you're going to have specialised, air campaign vehicles, and tanks don't need to do that." And I keep thinking of the Prince of Wales and the Repulse going down off Malaya because they thought that the air campaign was someone else's business.
But it will be a question, because you can't cope cages. Great against drones, but you can't.
Well, it kicks out a few drones for a little while, but
you can't have trophy and a cope cage.
No.
So How do you
Yeah.
kind of want to integrate the two of them?
I just also feel Trophy is now getting to be a long in the tooth system, and opponents have figured out its engagement weaknesses. You know, things like
It's only got 6 shots.
well, it's only got 6 shots, which is nowhere near enough. And you know, also if you fire multiple rounds rapidly at it, its re-engagement times are a little slow, and you really need something better and newer.
And it's only got a 55 degrees of elevation, so
I think they have tested Trophy giving a full 360 or 180 now, but
the version the Brits are getting only got
it's
55 degrees.
It's not enough, and now that the enemy can shoot around corners, I've said a few times in recent times, you've got. It used to be you put all your armor on the front because that's where the threat's coming from. But even with things like the British NLAW missile that shoots around a corner, drones can definitely go around corners to find your weak bits. You've either got to have a way to eliminate the threat as it comes in, or you've got to have a way to protect all your weak bits. And similarly, you know, I'm getting very upset by all this new kit Australia's buying, like the Huntsman self-propelled gun. That would have been great 20 years ago, but self-propelled guns are just targets trying to shoot and scoot because the drones come in so fast and they can't outrun them. So you've got to be able to take them out. Yeah.
Right. Differences in Challenger 2 hull sizes. So when the Challenger 2s were built, they weren't all built to exactly the same. What a surprise. Means that lining up the new Challenger 3 turrets with the old Challenger 2 hulls is very difficult, especially the new turret drive servo system.
Oh, the TDSS. That's a nice initialism, Rob.
There you go. Leading to could call it the TIDS.
That
makes that makes it an acronym. All right, leading to calls to build the new hulls, something that is not going to happen. I think the desire was to lift the old turret and lower in the new one on an operating tank, but reality will be that the Challenger 2's hulls will have to go in for a full strip down and refurb before installing the new turret. The process, they're a wild guess. I haven't actually read anything. I'm just making up this guess. They'll do probably 12 hulls a year.
So they won't fund a bigger production line. So,
no. So they'll do these refurbs. They'll do about 12 hulls a year to get them to lined up to Challenger 3 specs, which will be magicked into the Challenger 3s in 2040, just when they're due to be coming offline to be replaced. So we'll see what happens there. Look, Challenger 3 completed its critical design review ahead of schedule in February of 2023, and they locked in before the Challenger 2s were delivered to Ukraine, so they couldn't incorporate any of the battlefield feedback realities from modern tank combat in Ukraine for how the Challenger 2s did there, let alone all the stuff that they'd seen in the last year before of tank combat within Ukraine. Excuse me.
So they picked a hell of a time to lock off this development process. The fastest evolution in vehicle design. Oh no, we're going back to the past.
Right. The turret has Trophy MV active protection system, which uses radar to detect incoming anti-tank missiles, rockets, and kamikaze drones, and then fires counter munitions that generate shotgun-like blasts. The MV version, which is the light or medium version, only carries 6 shots. Trophy also points out the enemy firing point so the tank and connected friendlies can retaliate to that point.
Which is great against something like a tow missile. Amazing against that. Not useful against a drone, which is jinking and weaving. But yeah.
And it cannot fire directly up. Only 60 Trophy MV systems have been ordered for the planned 148 Challenger 3s to be built by Euro Trophy joint venture in Germany. Nothing to do with those Israeli mobs. Of course it is, but it's just a case of, they've offshored it to Germany to make sure that European countries are actually willing to buy it rather than from Israel. All right, final comment from the Royal United Services Institute.
RUSI, which is well worth reading. I love this stuff. Yep.
A UK think tank. They say, the Challenger 3 may be the most lethal tank ever fielded by the British Army, but it's going to be available in such limited numbers that it'll have to perform heroically in the face of a notional foe in the form of Russian ground forces, such as a combined arms army. But it should be that the UK should be investing in sustainment and enablers like bridging equipment before purchasing a single additional tank or jet that it can't in any case deploy and support. And maybe that's why Australia has 59 armoured support vehicles for our 75 Abrams.
So finally Australia's done something kind of right. Although I do feel that we're still buying a lot of gear that's suitable for the last war. Or not even the war before the last war. Anyway.
All right. Now we get on to a fun one.
Building out our British regimental combat team,
Ajax.
We have Ajax, yes.
Which is Ajax plus a bunch of other Hellenic/Greek names starting with the letter A that will be discussed later. I'm just going to keep these ones, they're a little bit briefer because we're not really going into this one. Anyway, the Ajax, mass of 38 tonnes with the potential up to 42 tonnes, 7.62 metres long, 3.3 metres wide and 3 metres high.
So hang on, just quickly. It is the height and weight of a T90, size and weight of a T90, but with a 40mm gun.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
But it has a crew of 3, which is like a T90.
Yep. Yep, keep going.
Plus 2 crew, or the variant has 2 crew plus 4 passengers for the Ares variant. Right, so that's the specialist troop carrier variant. Main arm is a 40mm cannon.
Now, one thing, that this cannon, if they can make it work, which they don't appear to have ironed out all the kinks yet, it's telescoped ammunition, so the projectile is deep inside the propellant, and it's capable of incredible programmability. So they can be firing it over trenches and blasting the troops in the trenches and then shooting around corners. And if they can make it work, which it doesn't work yet, it could be pretty cool.
Sounds a bit like a CV90, mate.
Yeah, but except it's 40mm, so it's a lot more oomph than a CV90. But let's remember, the CV90 is firing a Bofors gun, which was fielded first in World War II.
Yeah. Before then,
most of our audience is great-grandfathers, a lot of us grandfathers, but yeah.
Or uncles for me.
yeah, okay.
My grandfather fought in World War One.
You were a late child in your family.
I'm a very large family, one of the last cousins.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, secondary arm is the 7.62 coaxial chain gun, and it's also got a Kongensberg remote projector remote weapon station, where the engine is the MTU Friedrichshafen V8 and 800 horsepower. So a good English name, that one.
Friedrichshafen, yeah. With a rank gearbox, that rank's a good British name.
Rank 6-speed gearbox.
Yeah, do you remember with Ajax, it's a General Dynamics product, so it's a Austrian design from the 1980s that they're building in Spain, often wildly out of spec.
Caution bar suspension with a maximum speed of 70 kilometres an hour on road, plus a pair of external speakers to tell the public that they're being run over for their own good.
It's good to know that before you get run over.
All right, Ajax. What the marketing says Ajax is a family of tracked all-terrain, digitally enabled armoured fighting vehicles with a range of weapons and sensors, enhanced lethality.
More enhanced lethality, isn't that great?
Survivability, reliability.
I just wouldn't buy anything that didn't have enhanced lethality, Rob. And also, ever since human beings figured out how to put bits of stone, sharpened stone on the end of a stick, we've had enough lethality. No one's lost a war for lack of lethality. They've lost it for lots of other reasons, but
logistics mainly. Anyway,
almost always logistics.
All right, it has survivability, reliability, mobility, and all-weather intelligence, surveillance.
Oh, it's all weather as well. Yeah.
Target acquisition and reconnaissance. ISTAR.
Good old ISTAR.
All right. Capabilities through its advanced sensor suite, delivering transformational change in capability to the British Army. Ajax will be the most advanced medium-weight armoured fighting vehicle in the world. There are 6 variants to the Ajax family, all based upon a common base platform.
Which is bad. But continue.
Designation 245, Ajax. The Ajax variant will be the core of the British Army's deployable all-weather intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance capability. Ajax will be used as the reconnaissance vehicle in the Armoured Brigade combat teams and Deep Recce strike battalions, or brigade combat teams, and by the artillery, fire and support teams. Then you have designation 93, the Ares. The Ares variant is a common base for all Ajax variants. They'll be used to deliver support specialist troops across the battlefield, including anti-tank javelin teams, snipers, and support troops. Ares will provide overwatch and dismounted support in the Deep Recce strike and armoured combat brigade combat teams. Designation 112, Athena. The Athena variant is the command and control capability. It will process and manage information, provide commanders with information to make informed decisions on the battlefield. they'll be deployed with the armoured cavalry, artillery, and engineer units. Then you have designation 5151, so I should say 51 Argus. The Argus variant will provide timely and accurate engineering information to the natural and man-made environment. And will be used by 2-5 Engineer Group, supporting the divisional plan. Designation 38 Atlas. The Atlas variant is the second equipment support variant. It is the recovery vehicle and optimized to provide the most effective means of recovering a casualty vehicle, so the Rekimax. Designation 50 Apollo is the other second equipment support variant. It is the repair platform, so it's the Remy platform, and it will be used to tow battlefield damaged equipment and lift heavy sub-assemblies. All right. So they've got 100 vehicles of the expected 600 have been through extensive recalibration and fixing from their initial poor testing results, and were delivered to the Army units in April of 2025 for final testing and training so that Ajax could go into full production. It was rated for initial operational capability in November 2025, meaning it was ready for use, but not ready for full production. I just wanted to do a few more testing before with the troops that it was actually deployed to. 2 weeks later, after much vomiting by the squaddies in the back of it, it was sent back to the factory and withdrawn from service for further testing. So good luck with that.
Well, it's one of those things where when you're building it wildly out of spec in Spain, it makes horrible graunching noises when it moves, and it
vibrates everywhere.
Yeah,
and not in a fun way.
Yeah, and vibration's one of those funny things that you're like,
it does things to your ears.
Is vibration really a problem? And like US battleships with vibration problems in World War II had to have their rated speed brought down by 5 knots or so. It can be a huge problem, and it makes all the machinery wear out faster as well. I mean, also, if it's making the crews throw up and go to hospital, that's bad too. But if it wears out faster, that's terrible.
I just like that they gave 100 of these to the units in April, and they did their testing through till November, and they said, "Oh, look, we fixed up all these things, and it's so close to being good." Let's actually deploy it to the units. And the units have them for 2 weeks and actually put them through their paces. And everybody's throwing up in the back of it after 20 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever it is, and going, well, okay, this does not work. And again, pulling them back into, we're going to go back to the drawing board and get all these things fixed up. All right. So having come up with all these Greek A names for the vehicles, let's quickly go through them. Ajax.
Okay.
Ajax was the second strongest / best Greek fighter at Troy after Achilles.
He was also stupid.
He goes mad when he loses out to Odysseus on who should get Achilles' magic armor at the end of the Iliad, and kills a bunch of Greeks / cattle / sheep, depending on what you're reading.
Loose translation, yeah.
And once he recovers from his madness, he kills himself in shame. So I'm not sure how it lines up for the intelligence and surveillance parts of the Ajax system, as they seem more aligned with Odysseus, and who means the angry one, but he was also the very clever one.
And the new Odyssey is coming out quite soon, which looks...
the movie, yes.
Which looks like being fun. It's certainly upsetting all the dickheads of the world. Yeah.
So let's just hope the vibrations don't drive the crew mad and make them take out their own troops before killing themselves. Right, we go on to Ares, the god of war and courage, personified by brutality and bloodlust.
Also very stupid, but yeah.
Because
the Greeks knew a bit about war, and anyway.
Deploying of specialist combat teams meets up with war and courage.
The beer tube is done.
There you go.
Out it goes.
All right, then we get to Athena, the goddess of wisdom, warfare, and handicraft.
They should have called the whole thing Athena. And they should also not have had it built by General Dynamics off of ancient Austrian design in Spain. But anyway,
So, warfare, wisdom, and handicraft. So, worshipped by tabletop war games everywhere. Born from Zeus getting a headache and exploding out of his skull, which fits the command and control vehicles. All right, Argus, probably referring to the engineer and builder of the Argo, which is a good name for an engineering vehicle. All right, Atlas, the Titan, condemned to hold up the heavens when they lost the war to the Olympians. Another decent name for a recovery vehicle, as it can lift and tow heavy things. Apollo, the god of healing, prophecy, music, poetry, and archery. And I guess they're leaning into the healing aspect of the god for the repair vehicle. All right, and like the Iliad, the siege of Troy, the story of Ajax has gone on for 10 years longer than it should have, and should have been completed. Was due for completion in 2017. Now we move on to the Boxer.
I just want to quickly note with Ajax, it's always struck me as a vehicle family that was trying to answer some serious questions in intelligent ways, and the implementation's just gone horribly wrong. A vehicle like Ajax with electronic warfare capabilities, with huge sensor capabilities, could have a real future.
And its level of protection.
Yeah, and its level of protection could have a future as a node commanding all the drones, right? That could be something they do. But they don't seem to have got it right. And I hope I'm wrong in that. I hope the British do actually sort this out. But it would help if the hulls were actually built within thousandths of an inch or of a millimetre instead of much more coarsely. Yeah.
All right, now let's lean into the poll for a sec. We've got how many votes have we got in there?
15 votes. We've had I think 2 people say the Challenger 3 is the best tank in the world, and the rest have said should have bought Leopard 2s or should have bowed Leopard 2s because I stuffed up the poll. Yeah. But I think everyone's understood what I was saying. So yeah.
All right, now we move on to the Boxer. All right.
The Porky Boy.
I don't know if this is true, but according to the interwebs, the name of the Boxer comes from Lego. Its boxy shape and interchangeable modular parts make it a very Lego-like. It also mentions something about being versatile, rugged, and able to take or deliver a heavy punch like a Boxer, but I think that's just coding. So
Lego bricks are indestructible, so yeah.
I think that's just a coding so big Lego doesn't come after them.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
All right. Boxer's actually been around for a lot longer than I realised, coming to service in the Netherlands and Germany in 2009.
And we make them here in Australia and export them back to Germany.
There we go. Since then, they've built nearly 2,000 hulls and have 30 possible modules that they can mount on the back for whatever purpose is required. When it came out at the time, it was seen as too big and too heavy at 33 tons compared to the vehicles that it was replacing.
It is incredibly tall. Incredibly tall. It is a huge target.
Yeah. It is. And it is big. And if you look at a Boxer next to an Abrams, and the tank looks small, is what we've got to say about that. But since its introduction, more defence forces are opting for similar vehicle weights for various roles for the protection and the capabilities that can be stacked on top of the vehicle. So basically, if you want to have certain things on a vehicle, the weight goes up. And so you may as well have something that's already built to take those weights and those capabilities, even though... but I haven't seen anything as large in dimensions as the Boxer, because there might be, but I haven't seen it.
I just don't think Boxer has a role in modern warfare because it's too big a target and it's not mobile and not agile enough off-road. And anyway, it just seems like an accident waiting to happen. But yeah. Seeing it next to an ASLAV, the recon vehicle that it's replacing the Australian Army is going, wow, it's almost twice as big. Now, if it has a really good anti-drone capability, then maybe it's going to have some value, but...
I think it's that good. I mean, they've got...
it's going to need the sensor suite that it doesn't have yet, but it does have the gun that could do the job. I'll give it that.
They've got anti-aircraft versions of...
Sky Ranger, yeah.
So anyway, it's an 8-wheeled, multi-role, capable armoured vehicle, but Rheinmetall have also developed a tracked version that no one has bought yet. But supposedly the Chinese have got a copy of it and made their own version of the Chinese copy of it, but I'm not sure if that's actually true or if that's just a bit of an internet hype. All right. The UK have had 50 boxes delivered and have another 500 on order. If they can sort their budget and funding out that the Defence Secretary just quit about this week. Yay! And like Australia, they are looking to assemble the Lego kits sent to them by Germany in the UK. So you're saying we actually build it from scratch here?
No, we don't build them from scratch. We build the Lego kit, but the Germans send us out the Lego kit and then we assemble them here and then we send them back to Germany.
Well, they're busy building Leopard 2s, aren't they?
Sure. But, it's... It's a rare case of Australia making anything, so let's take that win when we can get it.
Damn straight. All right. The Army has ordered the British Army has ordered a troop carrying variant, an ambulance, and a command vehicle and a specialist carrier.
There's a lot of variants, and sorry, I will not interrupt you while you continue, Rob.
Yeah, it's a modern protected platform with all the latest gubbins, so electronics, this, that, and everything else. And as you say, sensor suites and whatever else you can get, and reversing cameras. And you can fit whatever module you need on it in 30 minutes. At least that's what the brochure says.
Yeah, this is where we get to, and we've had some great pictures on the screen of the modular stuff, and this is the problem with modular. It's like something like CV90 has a design where you've got the base and then you can build it differently around the base. But that once it's built, it's the same thing. But the problem with Boxer is it's trying to be something where you can be swapping modules in and out, and it's got a huge size and weight penalty. And at the same time, it's like, have you got the module you need nearby? And should you have just sent the vehicle that you wanted in the first place? How many different modules are you going to leave in the depot for one vehicle to possibly be fitted in? And is that a good use of your time and resources?
Oh, yeah. All right. So all the different configurations look good on a parade ground or on a technical display for your politicians and investors, and will probably work fine when a set deployment is needed. So, i.e., you've got your 4 Challenger 3s, your 10 Boxer troop carriers, a repair and recovery variant, an ambulance and an air defence variant, but keeping all the different modules looked after when they're not in use or mounted on hulls, and ensuring that the parts and logistics of all the different modules is kept up to speed will be a bit of a challenge. All right, but at least it's in service, being used, and there is a dedicated supply chain for it, rather than being a one-off design that no one else will ever use.
So that is Boxer's big advantage is lots of people are using it. Yeah. So it's and there's an Australian 4-wheel drive YouTube channel that for some reason that I cannot comprehend was allowed to drive a Boxer in their up in North Queensland, drive around, and they got bogged so many times. And
really? the must have been doing the wet season.
The solution is there's a giant man truck, like an 18-wheeler truck that unbogs them, but that truck is not getting to every place that you're going to bog your Boxer. And the other thought is that there'll be another Boxer to help unditch it, and it's like that's not great. A self-unditching capability is a good thing to have in a vehicle like this. But anyway,
all right. Now we get on to the operators. For the Challenger and the Ajax, there are no operators. Not really. It's just really the UK. It's because they're not really in use yet, but the UK will be using them. For the Boxer, it's in use by the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, Lithuania, Australia, Qatar, and Ukraine. So there you go.
Now, I was curious, you said Ukraine because the operators map doesn't have it on there yet, but operators maps can be out of date. And I haven't heard about Boxer, but
they've given them
some. Okay,
at least between 5 and 12. I can't remember.
Okay, so not a lot, and we haven't. I haven't heard a lot about how it's going, which I'd be interested
in. They got 2 variants, and I think one of them is the anti-air one. All right. Okay. Conflicts nil for Challenger 3 and the Ajax, unless you mean their internal conflicts with themselves. All right.
Good one, Ron. You landed the joke, which means one more joke than Elon Musk's ever landed. I saw a good joke today about Elon, so I just have to go on there saying like, wow, you get to be the richest person in the world, but no one likes you and you've never landed a joke. It's like some sort of Faustian bargain.
All right, Boxers have been deployed to Afghanistan by the German army, and those given to Ukraine are being used in the war against Russia. All right, legacy. No, I had to think about this one, right? Mm-hmm. The only legacy Challenger 3 and Ajax have at the moment is the hurdles they have to get past before they are made successful. And look, I don't doubt Britain will fix the issues of the vehicles, that they will eventually be able to do the job of protecting the troops and operating them and carrying out the missions in the defence of Britain, right? And whatever.
Which the English Channel does most of the work,
yeah.
So.
Look, there is too much British pride and ego of the little island punching above their weight on the global stage for them to give up on building their own tanks and armoured fighting vehicles. The UK will not go hand in hand to Germany or the US, let alone France. I mean, borrowing a carrier is one thing, but tanks, no thanks, to buy a tank. All right, Britain invented the tank for king's sake. Fixing Ajax and successfully building Challenger 3 will take a lot of more money and time than the UK government and defence want, but it will eventually happen. They may have to start taxing the billionaires buying up London property to pay for it, but hopefully it doesn't happen too late for any emergencies that might come along between now and then. At least with the Boxster, they've bought a reliable piece of German/Dutch engineering that will do the job. All right, and being modern vehicles, none of them appear in Girls and Panzer, not even the Challenger Cruiser Mark 8 Challenger, which I found a bit surprising that they didn't turn up. And look, when I make a mistake, I like to correct those things, and here's one of those times. It's few and far between, I know, but Last episode, I mentioned in the about the 1,000 B-52 bombing raids of North Korea.
I did wonder about that at
which
the time.
was totally wrong. I was thinking about Operation Linebacker 2 in 1972, where 200 B-52s dropped bombs on North Vietnam. I got my North mixed up. Flying over 700 sorties over the 12 days in December 1972, and losing 15 B-52s to SA-2 SAMs.
I'm going to say 200 B-52s is still going to be the most terrifying thing anyone ever saw.
Exactly.
But,
I mean, it's still. Yeah. I mean, they were huge.
I've seen one B-52 flight. It was sent over here in Canberra for I think one of the Australian Air Force's anniversaries, and it was just was a terrifying thing to see, and I wasn't expecting it. I thought this is going to be cool. You know, I go and watch flyovers quite often because when you live in a national capital, you get them a lot. And
not to mention from where we are sitting.
Oh yeah, and it was so.
I could see them out the window at work because they'd fly.
Yeah, but the B-52, it was so insectile and slow. There was something extremely unnerving about it. In a way that just a fighter jet is, or a big military transport, you know, that isn't. There was something scary about it, but yeah.
So, and that's the 200 B-52s going on those raids, and that's not including all the other fighter bombers that were carrying out, that were flying along with it. So they were hundreds and hundreds of planes during Linebacker 2 bombing North Vietnam, which they said, look. The only thing it accomplished besides bombing people into oblivion was it did actually bring North Vietnam back to the negotiating table.
Oh yeah, for what that achieved, which is the eventual victory in the war of North Vietnam. But anyway, let's not dwell on that because we're a tank podcast. The poll,
same as before, 15 votes.
Yeah, so 27% say Challenger 3 is the best tank in the world, and we salute your courage, whoever you people are out there. That's great. And 73% say that they should have bow Leopard 2s because I stuffed up the poll.
I think it will be a very well protected tank. In another 5 years when they actually figure out how to do it properly. The fact that I don't think the 2000 view of what a conventional tank should look like, which is what this is fundamentally, is going to be valid in 5 years' time. Is the problem? But anyway, they'll figure something out. I guess my big issue is that only 148 of them.
The size is the biggest problem.
Yeah, because there's no capability to support that. As I said, the industries to keep supporting that will shut down because will be no demand for those companies to keep on going.
Yeah,
I mean you don't keep around an assembly line, a tool shed or whatever, going for tanks that don't need it, that you're not getting employed for. You say, well, no, I'm going to put my money and my time and effort into something that's actually profitable for me, rather than hoping that the Ministry of Defence will come back and say, can you build me more of these?
It's an unbelievably expensive niche capability for a defence force that does not have a lot of money spare, and that's terrifying for them. Anyway, we've got a really special treat for you folks now. The halftime interview is a interview with David Axe, the operator of the Trenchart Substack, and he's got some really interesting things to say about his intense study of the Ukraine war, and
other conflicts,
and we hope you're going to like it. But any which way, here's half an hour of that, and we will be back to talk about current events in the world. We've got a lot to say.
So much. But anyway,
here we go. So we're joined by David Axe, the founder and lead of the Trenchart Substack, and in my view, one of the best journalists writing about the Ukraine war at the moment. And David, thank you so much for joining the show.
It's my pleasure.
Good morning.
Now, you've had a long and storied career covering conflict. Do you just want to run our viewers through a potted biography for us?
Sure. I've been writing about war for about 25 years. I got my start freelancing in Iraq in 2005, working for small newspapers, websites, and spent about 10 years bouncing around various war zones, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria, Lebanon, uh, Central Africa, a bunch of places, East Timor once, um, all over the world. And then spent some time working for Wired, spent some time working for Forbes, have run my own journalist collective called War is Boring for a few years. And now I'm ensconced in Substack, writing about Ukraine mostly, under the Trench Art brand.
Fantastic. So can you tell us more about Trench Art?
Yeah, I just write about Ukraine every day.
Fair
That
enough.
is the topic of the moment, I guess. Well,
Yeah.
one of the main topics of the moment.
Yeah, right now, what's really interesting is the Ukrainians' counter logistics campaign, an escalating campaign of medium range drone strikes on the main supply routes, connecting Russia proper to Russian forces on the quote unquote front line. There isn't really a line, but the gray zone in eastern and southern Ukraine. So, after much urging and delay, the Ukrainian military has really strongly pivoted to these middle range strikes, striking at call it 150 miles or less from the gray zone, really concentrating on hitting trucks on these main supply routes, using kind of a new class of AI assisted drones. And this has the potential to dramatically reshape the battlefield in Ukraine, because it strikes at a Russian vulnerability, that is long road-bound supply lines, that that the Ukrainians had neglected to strike in years prior, but now with new doctrine, new leadership, and new technology, they have the potential to weaken Russian forces behind the front line, so that these regiments are more vulnerable when they begin their assaults.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to put it. And I'm reminded of the doctrinal conflicts the British had in the Western Desert back in World War II, where the RAF really wanted to strike at the German logistics, and the army always wanted them to just hit the tank that was directly in front of the troops. So it's kind of funny to see that that thinking returning in 2026 and being what seems to be very effective. The Ukrainians have had a much better year in the last 12 months than they've had in a while, it seems.
Yes, that's true. Right. Russian advances have actually not only stalled in recent months, they've reversed. So overall, it varies sector by sector, but overall, the Russians have lost ground in February. I'm sorry, in March and April, whereas a year prior, 2 years prior, they typically gained a lot of ground in that same period. In those years, when the weather warms up and the ground dries up, the Russians tend to launch an offensive. This year, if they're trying to launch an offensive, it's not working, and because they're giving up ground, especially in the south. They are making some more localized gains in certain critical areas in the east. So you shouldn't, discount that, but the numbers do mean something, and they do tell a story. For the first time in a very long time, Russia is retreating overall.
Yeah, that's actually it's more significant than I'd really thought about it before. Now you've covered conflict for a long time, and how obviously it's changing enormously, particularly in this Ukraine conflict. I mean, we're seeing it's kind of like a no man's land is just getting wider and wider and wider, isn't it? With these huge denied areas, which sound quite terrifying. Some of the guys I read who are nearish to on the ground. Every civilian vehicle has to have a drone jammer and a drone detector, or they'll just be murdered trying to go about their lives. It's how is it different to all those other wars you've covered, I guess?
Right, that's true. The gray zone, which is what we now call the front line, where direct combat is possible, um, is 10, 15, 20 miles wide, depending on the sector. Uh, it's a zone where neither side has clear control, and where short range drones, first person view drones, are everywhere all the time. But the various drone kill zones on both sides of the gray zone, both Russian and Ukrainian, are stretching farther and farther by the day. Right. No civilian or military vehicle is safe within 50 miles of the gray zone. But certain targets are vulnerable much farther. Russian deep strike forces can hit anywhere in Ukraine, literally. The sort of more distant and better protected targets require um, very specific targeting by very expensive munitions, but they're not safe from attack. There's no refuge in Ukraine. There's no safe haven at all. Um, Russia's a bit different. So nowhere in occupied Ukraine is safe from Ukrainian attack. And Russia's border oblasts are also exposed to attack. Once you get into Russian, into Siberia and the Russian Far East, it's much more difficult for the Ukrainians to strike there. But they have. If you recall, a year ago, Operation Spiderweb, the Ukrainians packed hundreds of first-person view drones into into tractor trailer trucks and smuggled them deep into Russia, as far as the Russian Far East. More than 1,000 miles from
In
Ukraine.
order to take out their long-range bombing force that were
Correct,
stationed
and
out there.
they piggyback these drones on Russia's own cellular network, 5G cellular network, in order to send video back to operators inside Ukraine to control these drones. And they blew up more than a dozen Russian Air Force bombers, irreplaceable bombers. So in theory, in concept, Ukraine can strike anywhere inside Russia, but the really deep strikes require extraordinary effort and a lot of planning, and don't happen fast. So the Russians have an easier deep strike math to solve, but both sides can strike across enemy territory. So yeah, that's sort of the new normal. And it's what's really striking. Of course, Russia can strike, across Ukraine, given the geography of the conflict, but also just Russia being a major power with intermediate range ballistic missiles and strategic bombers and cruise missiles and things like that. What's really striking is that Ukraine can do the same thing, using much more novel technologies. But, 10, 15 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible, because the only way to strike that deeply would have been with intermediate range ballistic missiles or cruise missiles that Ukraine didn't at the time possess, and now possesses some cruise missiles, but only foreign made copies in limited quantities. That could change soon, but so again, Ukraine has to lean on these novel technologies like smuggled FPV drones. But the state of the art allows them to do that, and they're really advancing the state of the art, at a monthly pace. It's really incredible. So, you should expect in future major conflict that nowhere is safe for either side.
Yeah, and I mean, let's say, going back to Iraq 25 years ago, IEDs were the main arm of asymmetric warfare, but and they were terrifying enough. But this is really a whole new level.
Yeah, it has, to bring this back around to your original question, it has changed the way that war reporters work. I don't do frontline work anymore. I'm too old and too slow. My last frontline correspondence was in 2013 in Syria. War has changed a lot
That
since then.
that would have been a dangerous time, at any rate.
It was, but it wasn't like we were getting droned.
Mm.
The danger was from on the front line. It was from direct combat. Farther behind the front line, it was the fighting between rebels and militants. The Islamic militants could result in roadside bombings or kidnappings or things like that. And so it was just sort of like the threats from insurgency that I had grown accustomed to in Iraq and Afghanistan just mapped onto Syria. But it's a very different world now. Even look at the Arab-Israeli wars of today, or the Gaza conflict and Hezbollah. Even those non-state actors or quasi-state actors can weaponize small drones. We recently saw, well, I believe it was Hezbollah. Was it Hezbollah who struck that Israeli medevac
Hezbollah
chopper
have been getting big into FPVs, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that has bearing for reporters too. That's a threat to reporters. The Ukraine gray zone is an extremely lethal place for media. It's an extremely lethal place for anyone. But the learning curve for infantry, harkens back to the great wars of the 20th century, where if you were going to die, you tended to die early when you reached the front line. But you learned very quickly survival skills. So once you get over the first 30 days of combat or whatever, until you're exhausted, your chances of survival go up because you've learned what to be afraid of and where to run and when, and you learn to do your due diligence and like digging holes and climbing in them.
Yeah.
And for the Ukrainians, the lesson is like, be underground as often as possible, and when you're not underground, move very, very fast, preferably at night, under as much armor as you can put between you and drones, without slowing yourself down. And yes, jam all the time, but radio jamming only works for wireless drones, and fiber optic drones don't care about your fiber optic, and AI drones don't care about your jamming.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's quite the arms race, and then I think full autonomy of drones is something we're going to. The era of the human operator of the FPV drone, I think, is going to be a short-lived one in the evolution of these things, which is opening terrifying new pathways. I mean, we're very much in an era now, though, where anyone with a shipping address that AliExpress will deliver to can get into the drone game, and I guess we're going to see a proliferation of non-state actors getting into this, which is also going to be a bit of a worry.
Yeah, absolutely true. I actually think that human operators will be part of the system for a very long time, but very soon it will be typical for a human operator to have AI assistance with targeting, because you can train these models to recognize targets and sort of highlight them on a screen for an operator to select which ones for the drone to strike, and that's tremendously helpful for a human operator, because that algorithm can look and designate faster than the human eye and human brain can, but then leaves the sort of strategic thinking like, oh, this target is more valuable right now for this reason. Leaves that kind of thinking, that kind of creative and wide, broad thinking to a human operator. But yeah, I mean, a completely purely human controlled drone, yeah, those will go away pretty soon. They'll have various degrees of semi-autonomy or AI-assisted autonomy, in addition to human operators or managers who are far, far from the front line.
I think we should start watching out for when data centers start ordering their own drones by themselves.
Yeah, look,
we've all seen the movies.
I'm a bit concerned about the killbots and civil disobedience. Yeah. Um, okay, David, tell us a bit more about your Trenchart project and how can people get behind that?
Oh, it's just a Substack. It's just a platform for me. As traditional media collapses all around us, those of us who already have an audience, I mean, God
Gets
help,
bought out by billionaires.
right? God help you if you're a young reporter just starting out. I don't know what the world looks like for those folks in a year, 2 years, 10 years. But if you have an audience that you've managed to build because you got started when traditional media still was viable, like I did, then you can bring that audience over to your own platform. In my case, a Substack, and just keep doing what you do best for that audience. It's encouraging that to make a decent living as an truly independent journalist with only a newsletter as a main platform isn't impossible. You just need, I don't know, maybe about 1,000 paid subscribers. And if you can keep your bills low, then you can make a go at it. I still do a lot of freelancing because I get bored, but also because my Substack is only a year old. So it hasn't, I mean, I've only been really doing it intensively for a year because I left Forbes a year ago. Um, it still needs to grow to be my sole income. And I don't know that I ever would want it to be my sole income, but it could be. So, that true independent newsletter journalism thing works for certain kinds of reporters now. I don't know that it works for kids who don't have an audience baked in already. So yeah, if you want to read about Ukraine every day, um, go to Trenchart at Substack, and you can subscribe for very little, and I will send you more updates than you want, probably. Because one of the complaints I get weirdly is that I publish too often, which just don't read it if you don't want. You don't have to read it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, so find you.
Some of us get so if there's content there from people we want to know about, then we don't want to miss out. It's that fear of missing out of what you're producing, because otherwise, we won't have taken it all in.
but I promise you the theme will repeat. So, like I'm writing a lot about the counter logistics campaign, and this is not going to go away. So if you skip a few stories about Ukrainian drones hunting Russian trucks, I promise you there will be more stories about Ukrainian drones hunting Russian trucks. Uh, but anyway, I just try to like keep my pulse on what's happening in Ukraine. Talk to a lot of folks, follow a lot of social media accounts from the front line, and read a lot of analysis and reports and things like that, and then filter all that through my own long experience as a reporter and a frontline reporter to try to give you the most important daily news. But it's also from the point of view of, being an advocate of a free democratic Ukraine. So, I'm not pretending that I'm not rooting for the Ukrainians to win.
Fair enough. Now, obviously, we're a tank podcast, although we accept that armor is going to have to change enormously in the future.
Oh my God, yes.
Can you tell us a bit about where the use of armor is in the Ukraine conflict at the moment?
Diminishing by the day. Tanks cannot survive long in the gray zone. It takes a lot of FPV drones to knock out a sufficiently up armored tank. But there are a lot of FPV drones in the gray zone, and they're also not the only firepower that's working against traditional armor employment. Mines are still a huge problem. Anti-tank missiles, not so much anymore, because deploying them requires the operator to get too close, and helicopters are no longer viable over the gray zone. But yeah, between mines, obstacles, and a
What
lot
about
of
artillery? Is artillery still
sure.
got enough
Yeah,
range for to stay out of the grey zone?
for artillery, not too far. They're still pretty close. But FPV drones have partially displaced artillery. Not fully, not at all, but partially. So, there was a point 2-3 years ago when the supply of artillery ammunition was existential for Ukraine. It's no longer the case because the Ukrainians wisely ramped up FPV production to the tune of many, many millions of units a year, and they can now sort of use FPVs in the place of some indirect fire support. So heavy mortars, for example, the shorter range howitzers. Artillery is still a very cost-effective way to kill a lot of Russians. But it is no longer the only cost-effective way of killing a lot of Russians. Drones can do it too. So armor really struggles to survive in the gray zone. And so where we see tanks in action in Ukraine, on the Russian side, tanks tend to function as heavily armored breaching vehicles. So you don't see tanks doing a lot of tanking, where they're using mobility and firepower to close with and destroy the enemy in close combat. That's very rare. Instead, the Russians pile a lot of add-on armor and radio jammers onto their tanks and tend to create shed-like structures. They call them turtle tanks.
Yep.
And under these sheds, you can put infantry, and you can build a little hatch in the side. Or even if you don't build space for infantry under the shed, you can still use the tank to lead an infantry vehicle, an infantry mobility vehicle formation. So take your BMPs, your MRAPs, your MTLBs, pile the infantry onto them. You up armor them as well, of course, but then you put them in a line behind an up armored Russian tank that's also got a mine roller, and also has radio jammers and smoke. And you use that tank to clear a path through the gray zone in order to get the infantry across the gray zone to new positions. It's not really a tank anymore because many of these tanks either do not or cannot traverse their turrets, and so cannot or do not aim their main guns. So they don't use their main guns. It's pretty rare.
And I bet the operators on that tank aren't sober in one way or another.
No, and they can't see because of all the because of all the add-on armor. And yeah, their lives are very difficult. But with enough using these vehicles as breachers, where the job is just to eat FPVs and mines in order to clear a path to breach for the infantry. You know, as breaching vehicles, up-armored Russian tanks actually work pretty well. Their life expectancy may not be great, but you know, how many breaches do you need to conduct before your tank has justified its existence? One, really, but if you can get several out of it, and there's some Russian brigades that are pretty adept at their anti-drone armor installations, and so can there's a motor rifle brigade, I think it's 31st in the east, that creates these giga turtle tanks, enormous turtle tanks that carry infantry and breach for the infantry, and they're very effective. So the Russians tend to use their armor as a breaching vehicle. The Ukrainians also do that, but we have seen cases even recently where the Ukrainians have used armor as a quick reaction force on their side of the gray zone to respond quickly to engage with and destroy Russian infiltrators who get across the gray zone. So once the Russians breach the gray zone and deposit some infantry on the Ukrainian side of the gray zone, they can be a real problem for the Ukrainians because Ukrainians don't have a ton of infantry, which is how you would typically root those guys out. So the Ukrainians will often send in tanks as a kind of hard-hitting, direct combat, quick reaction force to root out Russian infantry who get across the gray zone. Even those tanks are still in danger from Russian FPVs. But so you have seen some closer to traditional armor action on the Ukrainian side. On the Russian side, almost never. They're just breaching vehicles now.
What's the mortality rate like for the Russians in those vehicles? Are they getting to go around twice? I mean, it looks like something near kamikaze tactics.
Yeah, I think using just exploding Russian turtle tanks or not even turtle tanks, just exploding Russian tanks on social media isn't really indicative of the actual survival rate. I think most crews do manage to get there and get back a few times, and not every destroyed vehicle kills its crew. So you see a lot of abandoned vehicles because the crew bailed out. They are piling so much armor onto these vehicles that it destroys the vehicle's transmissions, but it does have the effect of giving the crew a chance to bail out if they get hit. I mean, actually, the armor makes it hard to bail out, but it does mitigate some of the damage so that they have time to try to bail out.
Now, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you at some point, what's your favorite tank, David?
Favorite tank. So I try not to fetishize weaponry, but I will answer that question. I'm just really fond, for very stupid reasons, of Taiwanese tanks. The reason I
Right.
find them interesting is because until the Taiwanese army began buying M1A2s in recent years, they've just been endlessly upgrading the same tanks from 1970s or 1980s and 1970s or even older stocks. So you've got these M48s and M60s that are no longer recognizable as M48s and M60s because, well, even if they are recognizable because they preserved the outline, on the inside, these are completely different vehicles from their original design. It's fun to see a tank uh, sort of evolve internally and externally, decade after decade after decade for lack of alternative. And in a funny way, the Taiwanese, not by choice but by necessity, are ahead of the curve when it comes to armor development, because I'll tell you what, sophistication no longer matters in a tank. The things that make a tank valuable today, especially in Ukraine because of the FPV threat, is just basic mobility and a lot of armor. Steel. You just need steel and an engine and tracks. And, right now there's no functional benefit. A Russian T-62 with an anti-drone shed is just as effective as a Russian T-90 with an anti-drone shed. Likewise, a Taiwanese M60 is just as effective on a modern battlefield as a much, much newer and much, much more expensive Taiwanese M1A2.
Yeah, and the M1A2 is going to struggle over almost every bridge in Taiwan, I would imagine. But
I'm not even sure what the doctrine is. Like what I think the doctrine is that these are the Taiwanese armor brigades are meant for rapid counterattacks against beachheads. But my thinking is, if the Chinese have a beachhead, you've about lost. You have to defeat that force offshore, not at the beach. So, a multi-billion-dollar acquisition of a couple hundred tanks at most, I think it's actually a little over 100 M1A2s, is
108.
Not a worthwhile investment when that same money could buy you an awful lot of anti-ship missiles or drones.
Rob, you got any other questions?
No, it's been lovely to listen to all the stories and information.
Yeah, David, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Send me a link. Can't wait to watch.
Will do.
And thanks to David for taking the time to speak to us and get a quick insight into the conflicts he's covered over the years, and where you can read more about what is happening right now.
I've got to say, that was we've done a lot of interviews now, and that was one of my favourite.
I could have kept on going, and I wouldn't mind having him back again another time if he ever feels like it. And look, and next month we might have somebody more another exciting person to talk to. So
let's not rank them, Rob, but maybe if it comes off.
Leading into August and Osama review.
Now, the most important part of the show is thanking the patrons.
Our wonderful, wonderful patrons.
So in the Artisifa tier, who get the interview early and the ad-free video and audio of the show, we have Brian Jenkins, Pear. I've got to say, Pear has now become our biggest ever donor with quite a lot of money, so thank you so much, Pear. Cornelius Weber, Maxi Mix, Chicago John, Hans Vormhat, Johnny Oot, Monty, Jacob Caban, and Tom Kessler, who is a new patron. Thank you, mate. The Apprentice tier, who get the ad-free audio and video of the show. We have David Mulvaney, Scotch12, Steve Matthews, Jamie Stokes, Ji Hook, Jay Beckman-Strauss, Hans Wang, Henry Hammer, Dan Sepienza, Christoph Keller, Tony L., Elliot Spicer, Russell Phillips, Red Rum X, Callum, Steve Broomfield, James Van Dyke, The Rain Man, Joe M, Mark Dorner, Jade, Colin Lang, and new subscriber Daniel Poon. So, Rob, over to you.
No, this is yours.
Oh, me, okay. Patrons and Apple Bastardry, so keep calm, carry on, but use a web browser to join with Patreon if you're so inclined. And also check out totallytank.net just to get the email list and the RSS subscription. Now, Rob wants everyone to know, can you guess what beer we'll review today?
You'll never guess.
Now, it's going to be a while till we get to that because we've got full pints of VB. But on that note, I'm going to advance the slideshow. The patrons have had their time, and
we love them for it.
Yes. Okay, Rob. This one's mine.
Yes.
So Mike's Research, which is our favourite blog in the world, has done a huge thing on the invasion of Poland in 1939.
I've only managed to read half of it.
Yeah.
which was still a lot.
It goes again. It's like reading a book. It's great. I had not realised that the world's first tank ace was one of the Poles.
Yeah.
Who knocked out.
I read that at the top. I didn't actually manage to get to the story, which was more than halfway through.
Yeah. Alan's saying, are you freezing up? But Aaron, do yours. I don't believe we're freezing up, but if someone wants to comment that we're freezing up, then I don't know what we're going to do. We're probably just going to keep pushing through.
Luckily enough, Rag Hours not tenants again. No.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus, that would be terrible. Anyway, so there'll be a link on totallytank.net if you want to read Mike's research on the invasion of Poland in 1939, which is a fascinating, in-depth read that deserves an audience for anyone who's interested in tanks.
All the various tanks involved by both sides, who was involved, all the steps, the false flag operations by the Nazis in order to justify their invasion, what the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and all that sort of fun stuff that goes with it.
Now, Tasman says, how about interviewing Sophie Lyons? She is the hottest tank nut around. Tasman, we don't rank the female tank nuts.
No.
But
we think they're all wonderful.
But yes, we should definitely get Sophie Lyon on for a chat. We know she's friends with Lottie the Tank Whisperer, and so we can probably make that happen. Good suggestion. We totally should. Okay. Now.
Right.
Rob, this is on you.
Now, how to find the enemy. You buy their information from the internet data brokers. And what we've always known, soldiers and phones make for easy targets for ads and missiles. The solution, bring your own device. But the solution for what? So essentially, the US military is just discovering that their soldiers in the Gulf countries have mobile phones. And they're quite easily to track to say, okay, show me an American who is in near this airbase at such and such a country, and the data brokers that you can buy anybody's information off will quite happily say, here is Joe Bloggs. He is an aircraftman at this airfield in Kuwait. Would you like to know his location? Here it is. And then you can say, okay, if I want to blow up a US military personnel from Iran or Iraq or wherever else, I can send my missile to that location and it will hit somebody. And their solution is to, you know what, rather than providing secure US comms, how about you bring your own device everywhere? Because that won't make a problem.
They'll make everything worse.
It will make everything worse. But that is what they're leaning into. They're saying, look, it is too big a problem. We're just going to make, and nobody likes it, to have secure devices that they're not allowed to play Flappy Birds on or whatever else. And therefore, we're just going to let them bring their own device, whether it's a phone, an iPad, or any sort of tablet, or a notebook. And once that you've registered on your Facebook or whatever, Instagrams or TikToks or Byways or whatever, that you can say, you know what, this is who I am and this is where I am in this vulnerable place. And here is my targeting coordinates for the latest missile to come in, or drone. Actually, really.
But as someone who's bought deeply targeted marketing data, Facebook certainly lets you target within 1 mile of a location. So in that case, it's not telling you who's looking at it, but you can be programming in there. So the marketing data is notionally accurate to within 1 mile or 1.6 kilometers. But recently there was a really great one. Someone was on the French aircraft carrier screaming towards the Gulf and trying to do laps of the aircraft carrier deck, and it was leaving this hilarious track on their Strava app of someone going round and round the deck. The deck was moving at about 18 knots, and so it was creating this quite distinctive looping pattern. The sort of pattern you could definitely train an AI to find.
Yeah, Strava's another one, or any sort of fitness apps and stuff.
But the fitness apps, all these guys are into it. They want to get their king of the mountain. They want to prove that they are the fastest one over this time or distance or place. And once you put that into any place that AI can harvest, I mean, it used to be that the Chinese could reconstruct shredded files with just humans putting it all together. AI can do it a lot faster. Anyway, so soldiers need to stop being such dicks, I guess. But
I mean, you're trying to tell an 18-year-old that he can't check his Instagram or whatever.
Well, I mean, I can remember back in the 90s, the Israelis were ordering pizza into southern Lebanon. So the pizza drivers knew exactly where the illegal troop concentrations were. And also, Israel, get out of southern Lebanon, you genocidal bastards. That's personal opinion. Rob doesn't endorse that. But,
I agree. Look, the Israeli invasion of a sovereign nation. I mean, fine, Gaza is part of their nation, and
no, it's not.
That is part of it's part of an internal conflict that they have created themselves, and blah 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 blah. But Lebanon is a totally different.
Yeah, also, just stop dropping bombs on random countries. There should be a big problem if a country drops bombs on another country. There should be some repercussions for that.
Murdering women and children in your own cities, in other countries' cities. I mean, it's not a great look. Anyway.
Sorry, we got someone new. Mick Loma says the Russians lost a load of fresh troops when an officer let call home for Christmas after confiscating their phones, and the Ukrainians sent their own present. That's exactly out of it. But...
that's exactly right. Anyway.
Yeah. So Pete Hegseth spoke at Normandy for the D-Day commemoration, which was always a bad idea to let Pete go anywhere and speak. And I'm going to quote him now. Sadly, today's different European beaches are stormed by different dangerous ideologies. Beaches in Spain, in Italy, in Greece and Bulgaria. Boats and men arrive. When will European capitals do something about that invasion? Or is it too late? I pray not. And I believe not. The men who fought and died here restored freedom to Europe. That freedom must be maintained by this generation of leaders and war fighters. Or that what they fought for was merely temporary.
Okay, can I just say, you did his voice, but why couldn't you have done Laserpig's voice?
Because I have too much respect for Laserpig, and I thought I'd do his voice badly. So that was why. And I have no respect for Pete Hegseth. So it appears to have gone over Pete's head that D-Day was fought by the Allies against a murderous and feckless regime of racial supremacy. So comparing the enemy to migrants is a touch on the nose. Rob, this is on you.
All right. I figured out the reason why the US wants to have white South Africans come as refugees to America. It's all a ploy to get a decent rugby team for the 2031 Rugby World Cup, which is going to be held in the US. And
I hope that goes as well as this one's going.
And speaking of World Cups, wouldn't it be amazing if Iran won the Soccer World Cup this year? And would that be a kick in the teeth, eh?
I don't think it's that likely, but
having
expelled half of their support team and making them train in Mexico instead of Arizona where they were meant to, and just generally not doing the things you should. I mean, the Senegalese referee who was barred entry on a diplomatic passport. Sorry, Somali, you're correct. Yes, it was the Senegalese team that were made to strip down on the tarmac. But yeah, that's...
So ICE is going to love the World Cup. It's
people from all over the world want to come and do stuff.
And some of them might be brown or black.
All right, let's move on and talk about tanks.
ICE is not going to like that. All right. Anyway, and whilst it was fun to mention, we won't mention how badly the Australian teams have done in the Super Rugby this year and how I've fared in the totally tanked tipping
I
competition.
believe I'm second last, and I'm pretty sure the last place person gave up after 2 rounds. But
Until next year. Until next year, boys and girls. Well, we'll be back and we'll be talking about our wonderful Brumbies and how they go again. Anyway, but until then, I'm going to go for the Exeter Chiefs, who are based in Devon in southern UK.
Wow, we're going as far as Exeter to find teams to follow. Yeah.
Because half of the team, well, a third of the team is made up of ex-Brumby players. So
Okay.
that's why I'm going for them.
Now, in exciting and positive news, Rob,
this is exciting and positive news.
the C-17 production, the process is grinding towards restarting their production lines. So Congress is starting to say what's it going to take, and Boeing's having to sharpen its pencils. And we're talking about the only modern Western aircraft that can carry a tank. This is why we're talking about it. It was a crime that production was stopped, and it is very good news that Congress is finally paying attention. These things are incredibly important, not just for tanks, but for emergency response and disaster relief as well. Things that happen a lot more often than needing
we'll
tanks
talk about
for air
that from
transport.
the Australian point of view later on in the episode.
That's
later
right.
on as well.
That's right here. There's one here. But for example, in the Fukushima nuclear disaster, the Australian C-17s were heavily utilised, delivering big water pumps from mining sites to the reactor to avert a complete disaster. Even if there aren't a lot of purchases in the market, and there appear to be quite a few.
I'm sure there'll be a lot more now than
places saying, "Yeah, we really want some of these." The production line is a strategic asset that a wise government would keep ticking over.
All right, now we can't go a month without talking about that best buy Australia's ever made, AUKUS, with news that not only will the deal cost another $11 billion to keep our 6 Collin class subs going for another 10 years, but we're now...
This is a 1980s build diesel electric submarine that...
Late 80s.
That because we built it here...
They didn't come in until I was in the army in 91 type of thing.
But because we built it here, they've had significant problems. They had significant positives as a diesel electric submarine, but they're old, rinky little things that should be out of service. And they've got enormous weight problems. And a weight problem in a submarine means you are rapidly losing the ability to surface.
Right. Plus, we're now getting second-hand, refurbished Virginia-class subs rather than new ones, but paying the same amount. I'm sure that makes good sense to everybody.
So, sorry, I just want to go back on this. For the international audience who haven't been following AUKUS the way Australians might,
$360 billion.
Australia's second worst Prime Minister ever, Scott Morrison, and the UK's worst Prime Minister possibly ever, Boris Johnson. With Joe Biden, someone woke him up to be part of this horrible triumvirate, cooked up this idea that instead of Australia buying conventional submarines, which we could have ordered off the Germans and already had them in service,
Japanese.
or the Japanese, which would have been good. The Germans are smaller and cheaper, but they don't do all of the things the Australian Navy dreams of doing.
We're also not a naval country.
So this idea was cooked up that we'd buy 3 Virginia-class submarines, and then the British would develop a joint class with us that basically we would pay for, and that would pay for their production line. It was a terrible idea then. It's a terrible idea now. The US can't make as many nuclear submarines as it wants to.
And we pissed off the French.
Well, and we really upset the French, who we'd come up with another stupid idea that we were going to buy these French submarines that didn't exist, with no plan for a power plant that could
They were
work.
nuclear subs that were going to make. We were going to make diesel.
We were going to put a conventional power plant in that didn't exist. So that was a whole bad thing. That's not part of AUKUS. That's a whole other bad idea. Instead of just buying the German or the Japanese submarines. Anyway, Australia has obsolete submarines, and we are spending $360 billion, which is a projected number that is going to be much larger, on not having any submarines, but we are building big bases for American and British submarines to operate out of.
Now, what's Australia surrounded by, John?
Water.
Water. What do subs go in?
They go in water.
All right, so we need submarines. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, no, but we need to actually have submarines, not a plan to have submarines in 50 years' time, and also submarines that will be long obsolete by the time they enter service. We're a tank podcast. Let's move on. We were
going to be buying newish Virginia-class submarines to fill the gap, but now we're buying second-hand.
So the deal is, this is the best deal for America ever. You guys should be so happy we've done this. We pay billions of dollars to the US, and they never have to deliver us a submarine ever under the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, and the folks are promising that this deal is all fine, but quietly there is speculation that we could ask to lease some subs from Japan to cover the gap between Collins and AUKUS. I mean, it might be a long-term bet, but putting $10 on Polymarket that Australia uses some Japanese subs in the next 10 years might get you some good odds. Or, we could have bought the Japanese subs back in 2015 and not have to worry about any of this. Plus, South Korea is also getting let into the club to build US nuclear submarines. And we thought we were special, right? They broke our hearts. They're saying, well, South Korea is just, they're not even signing up to AUKUS and paying billions of dollars, which, let's face it, they will be here long before Australia gets one of these nuclear submarines, because South Korea actually
Does building things.
Does shipbuilding. I wonder if Australia will be expected to take South Korea's nuclear waste as well.
I don't think we're going to sign up to that, but
it's all part of the AUKUS thing. So we'll take the UK's and US's nuclear waste. So why wouldn't we take South Korea's?
One of the exciting things about nuclear waste in Australia is we store it in hospitals. That's serious. That's what we do.
Now, I think, John, we need to drink these beers, because I think we're getting to a point.
All right, the beer review has to happen. But I mean, I'm ready to beat you there. You need to talk about the Spartan, but
I will. But I'm going to show you this beer, and
now I laid out. Oh, you got it there. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Are we sharing this?
we're sharing this.
So this is the beer. My glass is now empty, so I'm ready to go. This is a Belgian triple, or tripel, if you want to be fancy, which means it's only 8% alcohol.
Yeah.
It's by Australia's King River Brewing from the King Valley. So it's a farmhouse style, which you'd expect for Belgium. Only 8% for tripel is frankly sad and weak, but
there were other 8% tripels, but I thought I'd go for the Australian.
All right, there we go. It's a little champagne-y, but it's within tolerance.
So,
it's got that farmhouse musk. So
wasn't cheap.
Sweaty horse blankets, guys. you know you're onto something good when you can smell the sweaty horse blankets.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this
farmhouse style. You want your straw. You want your animal dung. You want your sweaty horse blankets. This is.
We're going for the triple because of the Challenger 3.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
wow,
yes.
you really thought this through.
And plus, we're doing the.
So it's a huge bottle, but it's still only 2 pints. So anyway,
it's. I was also going for the. So it's going for the Challenger 3 plus. We're doing the triple of the Ajax, the Challenger, and the Boxer. So I thought, right, we're all in, and you keep saying you don't want to have a great big dark thing. It's at 10% or whatever, but this is only 8%.
Honestly, I would call an 8% a double, and a triple I would expect to be up around 12.
Well,
but that's fine.
Sometime soon, boys and girls, we'll go for a.
I'm not the king of naming beers, so that's fine. Okay, I mean it's a Belgian farmhouse style. Like I said, it's all about the sweaty horse blankets and.
It's Australian.
Yeah, well, it's an Australian sweaty horse blanket, which is no one's as sweaty as we are.
No, even on this cold May day. June day. Sorry. Yes, we're sweating under the lights.
So Alan's asking. It looks like a Chimay or Duvel style, Belgian style. It's very much in that wheelhouse. Yeah,
and
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it does cost most of a case of beer.
Right. Personally, I would prefer a case of beer, but
I thought I'd try it out and see what. I've never had one of these before, so I thought we'd try it out. It's the opportunity to try it.
It's lovely. Let's talk more about Spartans, and we will come back to this with our considered thoughts by the end.
All right. All right. Australia has given up on short runway planes, choosing to retire the C-27 Spartan after only 17 years, which is nothing compared to the service of the Caribou, which we had for 45 years.
Now, I just want to note the Spartan was, in theory, in conception, really cool because it had exactly identical avionics and controls with a C-130 Hercules.
It looks very similar.
Yeah, it looks very similar.
2 engines rather than 4.
It's 2 engines and it's smaller and lighter, but the idea was that you could standardize the training and the maintenance and the training's a huge cost and have really quick transferability between the C-130 and the C-27 Spartan, which is an Italian, I think it's a linear plane. But in practice, it's turned out that the Spartan's really crap. Partly, one imagines, because they've taken a 4-engine plane and tried to make it work on 2 engines, and that might have some limitations. So the concept was promising, and I too would have, if offered this, said that sounds like a really cool concept. Let's go with that. But in practice, we've said this is terrible. Let's get rid of it.
How it could not be better than the Caribou seems strange to me, because as even my dad used to say, the Caribou is great if you want to get there slightly faster than walking. All right,
still better than the Beverly, but
right. And having gotten rid of this short runway aircraft, the replacement option for the Australian military is to make this is to use commercial flights and charters, and to land on runways too short for Hercules, because commercial charters are always willing to fly troops and supplies into dangerous locations, be it because of weather, climate, terrain, communications, or actual conflict.
There was a time when military grade meant something better than the commercial had, but
just means they usually means they've got better communications.
These days it means more expensive.
A commercial charter knows that the one-off contract they've got to deliver with defence is definitely worth the cost of their plane and pilots and ongoing ability to earn money if something untoward happens, like hitting a great big pothole in a climate-affected dirt runway on an island of the South Pacific that has lost all power and communications and needs help. All right, whether it's volcanoes, tsunamis, whatever else, but those things happen, and we're going to try and say, okay, Rex, which is one of the local
regional aviation,
or Koala Air,
Koala Air.
Yeah. Maybe they could fly us out there in one of their single planes, whatever.
Yeah.
Last time we were in Cairns, we actually saw, was it Northern Air, which I'd never heard of before. Which is basically it's an airline. It is dedicated to flying mining sites around Northern Australia. I'd never heard of it before, but they only fly to mining sites in certain places around Northern Australia. So that was a wake up to me when we were in. But the Cranoplane is making a comeback as a drone, and it's on the screen now. There it goes.
There you go. Chronoplanes are cool but not functional.
This is the the ground effect planes that they fly overseas.
If you've got very calm water, and a chronoplane can generate an enormous amount of lift using a ground effect, which is where the wing going over the ground closely gives a lot of lift.
4 to 5 meter waves is. I mean,
the waves start to mess them up, and
they can deal with 4 to 5 meter waves. It's once you get over that, which is basically any sort of ocean.
Yeah, but so there's a YouTube channel called RC Test Flight, which does a lot of really cool stuff, all of which could be weaponized. But he's just in a shed in Seattle, and he's making really cool things, and then they turn into weapons by other people, and which is disturbing in its own way. But that's not what we're worried about.
He's the latest Leonard of Coim, is he?
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But the point is that chronoplanes are cool, and the Russian, the Soviets, before they collapsed, built these enormous things.
To fly across the
hundreds of feet long. They were called the Caspian Sea Monster when they turned up in satellite photos, and they had 8 jet engines, and they were huge and carried troops at high speed. And there was a Final Fantasy game, I think Final Fantasy VIII, where a huge invasion was in chronoplanes. So yeah, they were really cool science fiction things. But
like a bolo.
The problem with the chronoplanes is that if the waves get funky, then the ground effect starts to get funky with them, and
but the US is looking at them as a drone, which can do things that drones can do, like the drone Seaboat that picked up the downed helicopter pilots the other day, and
how can they both be pilots?
Well, one can be a pilot and one can be the weapons operator.
Yeah, well, it got described as two pilots. That made me cranky. But yeah.
Well, they've probably both got wings, all right?
So Brandon's noting that this one specifically has a hydrofoil on the bottom, and some of the stuff RC test flight's doing and building has foils and ground effectors. It's a fun thing building little remote things. In terms of delivering anything serious, I don't think we're there yet, but who knows who's going to make it happen.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, and then Rheinmetall is building driverless engineering and mine clearance drones. So these are not your little drones that you see wandering around the battlefields of Ukraine. These are basically vehicle-sized drones that you can bolt on mine clearing plows of various types, and flails and rocket clearing rockets and so forth in order to send a autonomous vehicle forward in order to be able to clear mines and do all sorts of mine clearing activities. Rheinmetall is saying, look, the world has shown that if drones can drop mines, which they are doing plenty of in Ukraine, we need drones to clear mines. There's
a lot of agricultural machinery being designed right now that and sold right now that can plough a field, till a field,
that's good
plant crops, which is all getting into this kind of territory. Just basically us humans are obsolete now, and the elite don't need us anymore. So
it is, fun times, times, boys and girls.
But Australia's bought a boat, Rob.
We bought a boat.
Yeah.
Right. Australia has secured the first vessel for its maritime strategic fleet, #1, which is going to be comprised of up to 12 privately owned, commercially operated ships, in order to make sure that if Australia ever gets cut off from other maritime nations and anything that's we'll have 12 ships that'll be able to provide us with everything we need in Australia that we don't produce ourselves because the sea lanes have been cut off by some nefarious nation like Missouri or Orange Land.
Now in the current crisis, I've been watching a lot of the YouTube channel What's Going On with Shipping, which I don't necessarily agree with everything that Sal, the host, has to say, but he's a smart guy who's got a lot of clever things to say. One of the things I had not realized that he pointed out, and while we're talking about merchant shipping, is that the only officer college in the US that has its own battle flag is the Merchant Marine. Because they send the cadets out onto ships into war zones while they're still part of the officers' school. Every other officers' school, they're deployed into a
US Navy ship,
into another unit before they see combat. He's been very fairly making a lot of noise about how the US flagships trapped in the Persian Gulf have been largely abandoned by the US government, and in normal wars, some special operator would have turned up with a backpack full of communications gear to get them out of that situation, and this incompetent government hasn't done that. But anyway, Rob, keep talking to us about the Australian
so
thing.
Australia has bought one of our own maritime fleet, and now we just have to find some non-union scabs or Filipinos to crew it, because it's not like we have any sort of bloody maritime union people, because we don't like unions here in Australia. The government will not pay for that, even though it's a Labor government built upon the back of unions. It's a case of no.
We hate maritime unions in this country.
Like the billionaires that control them just don't like that idea. Right, and how is the tanker war going, John? This was yours.
Well, it's got tanks involved, so that's good. I just want to note to our international audience, particularly the Americans, you guys are feeling the pain of this war, and it's motivating your president because you're feeling it, and that's great. But
the rest of the world,
what you're feeling, you're the most insulated country in the world from the effects of it. And the rest of us are feeling it a lot more, and we're getting very angry about it.
Those of us with EVs are feeling less.
Yeah, you're feeling less of it, but things like, we live in the Australian Capital Territory, which has a population of
500,000.
Around that. Our what's basically municipal budget, a little bit of state level stuff. But anyway, we're getting hit. I think it's $2 million a week. It is being drained by this crisis, which is a lot. Which is things that we can't spend on, hospitals and schools. And we can afford it, but there's for anyone who's ever been outside of their own country, people in Indonesia are feeling this so hard. People in Vietnam, it's
and it's not just the fuel; it's
all the knock-ons,
fertilizer, the helium, all the things that come from the gas plants of Qatar and so forth that the rest of the world needs in order to be able to grow crops. There will definitely be famines in a few years' time because of all these follow-on effects. And the rich countries are saying, well, we'll just buy the fertilizer at higher prices, which is what Australia's going to do. But it's not going to be great for those people those countries that can't afford it. All right, now let's go to the poll. Let's talk about beer.
Okay, so on the poll, we are up to 72%. The UK should have bow leopard 2s, and 28% say it's the best tank in the world. And I want to acknowledge and appreciate you. I don't think we talked about this, but the optics are like this cathedral of a very vulnerable glass rising out of the top of the tank. And it reminds me of nothing as much as a Titan in Warhammer 40,000. And I just love that, because Warhammer 40,000, Games Workshop is now worth more than the UK fishing industry in
they're like the
import dollars.
Third biggest bloody tabletop wargaming is huge for the UK economy.
And I like that they're
even in the day when you can print your own bloody things with the STLs and 3D printers, there's still a huge moneymaker for the UK economy, much more than their tank sales.
Yeah. So anyway, it's great that they seem to have taken a design nod to the Games Workshop aesthetic. We've been playing Warhammer 40,000 since the early 90s, and now it's cool. And we were just decades ahead of time there, Rob.
I'll give out a shout out to my mate Winters SEO. When I need a break from the world, I like hearing his happy British voice, the Brummy voice, whatever it is, whatever accents he's got as he's playing 40K with his friends, and just watching that happen. And I watched that on YouTube, and I'm thinking, I'd really like to play, but I don't have the time, energy, or whatever, and I live vicariously through him playing. So Winters, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But as always, let's end on a happy note and say that it's confirmed. We've booked tickets, booked a flight, booked a flat, and we're off to Cairns for Oz Armour Fest at the end of August. And anyone who wants to ride, look at, listen to, or smell tanks is welcome to join us at the event and at the pub each night as we discuss the world and how we can make it better.
And also, we're going to take our Russian tanker hats and we're going to take a lot of selfies with people with Russian
That sounds awesome. And look, there will be money on the bar, so come and help us drink it, okay?
And also, we're going to buy someone, we haven't decided who yet, but we're going to buy someone a ride on a really cool tank. So if you come and you make yourself known, we're all going to have some good times.
It'll be fun. It's Cairns. What's not to like?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, all. That's the end of our episode for today, and we'll see you probably early in August so that we can...
early in July.
It's July.
Yeah, we're in June. We still have a July tank to do.
I'm looking too far into the future.
Yeah.
I'm a visionary.
But we're going to go early. We're going to go early July, so we can do early August, so we can do the tank festival without.
And it'll probably then be late September.
Don't know about late, but later.
Later.
Yeah. Anyway, we love all of you. We are so glad that 13 people have watched this all the way through. You guys are amazing, and we love everyone who's listening to us in. All of these things, and
Hey, Woz is there.
Woz has got in there. Yeah, Woz is coming. Woz is going to be there. Woz knows where it's at. All right, folks, here we go. We're off.